Hey everyone, welcome back to the Media Guy channel. My name is Scott, and it's been a couple weeks. Watched 4 movies, let's talk about them. Queen and Slim is a 2019 film which stars Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith as a young couple who are out on their first date, and it's not going super well, but it goes incredibly badly once they are pulled over by police. Some things happen which lead them to run from police, and they go on a little road trip on their way to Cuba. This is a movie very much in the same vein as something like The Hate U Give or, to a certain extent, Bonnie and Clyde. This movie features great lead performances from relative newcomer Jodie Turner-Smith and Daniel Kaluuya, who's probably going to win an Oscar this year. And while the lead performances are great and the supporting performances are compelling, this movie turns into an and-then movie pretty quickly. And then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and this happens. The movie feels like it's on a train track. It's headed to one location and it gets there. And there's not a lot of surprises along the way, mostly because there's so much deus ex machina at work here that it leads each scene's ending to be uncompelling. And that's what makes this movie somewhat dull and bland. The performances are great and well worth watching the film for, but the movie is very much paint by the numbers and goes exactly where you think it's going to go. Tom and Jerry is a 2021 Warner Brothers feature film released to HBO Max. It stars the Hanna-Barbera characters Tom and Jerry, an animated cat and mouse combo who chase each other around. The main character is a con artist, we'll call her, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, who cons her way into a hotel job just right before her favorite Instagram couple gets married. But Jerry the animated mouse has infiltrated this hotel, so Chloe Grace Moretz's character hires Tom to exterminate Jerry and chaos ensues. This movie has hills to climb and it doesn't necessarily do it. The biggest problem with making a Tom and Jerry movie is your main characters don't speak. And also their shtick is pretty fine for a 2-3 minute cartoon, but strung out over a feature-length movie, it's just not compelling and gets tiresome very fast. This leads a lot of the heavy lifting to be done by the human characters in this movie, and they are one-note, very static characters. We don't know much about them other than their labels. They don't change over time. They are wallpaper in a movie that's full of wallpaper. And the human actors act as if they are in a children's movie. And that's somewhat the fault of director Tim Story, who I am coming to the conclusion he's not very good at making movies. This movie is bland and forgettable, and probably won't even entertain its demographic, which is children. It's repetitive, boring, not much happens, there's chaos, and then it's over. This isn't a good movie. Godzilla vs. Kong is a 2021 movie also released straight to HBO Max and theaters at the same time. It's directed by Adam Wingard, and it is the 4th film in the Titan series. The series doesn't really have a name. The Titan series, the Monsterverse, whatever you want to call it, I guess. It happened sometime after Godzilla King of the Monsters ends, and King Kong is being called on to save the human race from a raging Godzilla who's mad about something. And while director Adam Wingard has made some movies that I really enjoy, he's never struck me as a particularly visual filmmaker, but having said that, there are some astoundingly good shots in this movie. It is beautiful throughout its entire running time. He's taken this neon lighting visual cue and put it throughout the entire movie, and it is gorgeous, especially the fight sequence in Hong Kong. But having said that, this movie is very silly. Each one of these movies in this series has gotten sillier as it's gone along, and this is probably the silliest of the bunch. It takes the strands of science fiction that's been placed throughout the prior 3 films and just kind of runs with it. There's spaceships in this movie. The human characters are there just to set up action figures being banged together, and they introduce concepts almost immediately as they're being paid off. And because of that, the screenplay seems to not have a very long game. It tells you something and then it happens. But as far as monster destruction is concerned, it scratched that itch. It's action figures being banged together, but it's done really well. It's shot very well. It has some fun set pieces. When you go into a movie called Godzilla vs. Kong, everything's kind of a setup for that confrontation, and it pays off. It's silly. It's an incredibly silly film, but it's also, it's cotton candy. It's not good for you, but it tastes good at the time. And I rewatched Rampage for reasons. Not to really compare it to Godzilla vs. Kong. I just watched it because I bought it on Blu-ray and I wanted to watch it again. And yeah, this movie's better than Godzilla vs. Kong in that it knows exactly what it is. It knows that it's schlock, and it is glorious schlock. I love Rampage. There's something about that film's schlockiness that I love, talking it up to people as if it were the best movie ever made. For some reason, it amuses me. I don't know why. Rampage is a lot of fun. And that's it as far as reviews. TV shows have all been the same. I'm still kind of working along the same shows, so nothing really of note there. Let's address a viewer comment. We haven't done that in a couple weeks. This comes from Nathan over at the Nerd on Film channel. If you haven't checked him out, please do so. He's really good. Nathan addresses my review of the Justice League Snyder Cut, saying, uneven is a very generous term for Snyder. I agree this film is his best DCEU film, but considering how low that bar is, it's not saying much. Keep Steppenwolf, Darkseid, and Cyborg's subplots, but cut out almost everything else, especially the pointless slow-motion scenes, and you have a decent 2.5-hour movie. I actually don't disagree with Nathan. I was very generous to Zack Snyder. When I think back on his filmography, there are a lot more movies I did not like than I did like, but even in the films I did not like, I see that there's talent there. I've always thought of Zack Snyder as kind of a pre-Pearl Harbor Michael Bay. In that when Michael Bay made Pearl Harbor, everyone said, this isn't a good idea. But he said, don't worry, it's gonna be my mature film. And when it turns out it wasn't, he kind of went back to the drawing board and embraced his style of storytelling. He kind of figured out who he was and embraced that as a filmmaker.
Genius. Hi, I'm Michael Bay, director of Hollywood hits such as Transformers, and I demand things to be awesome. Awesome pussycat. Awesome barbecue. Awesome pool.
He realized he doesn't make art, he makes Michael Bay films. And I don't think Zack Snyder will ever get there. I think he shoots for art and does not realize that his storytelling capabilities aren't there. It's going to be very interesting to see his next film when he has to go back into a studio system that has some say in Final Cut and how long the film is and what the film is rated. His next movie, how he deals with all those external pressures, is going to be very interesting, since this time Warner Brothers handed him a blank check. But while I don't think Zack Snyder realizes what he can do as a filmmaker quite yet, I do see that there is visual storytelling talent there. So yes, a little lenient on Snyder, but he just has to put it all together in one film. And this is not it. You're right. There's probably a good 2.5, 3-hour cut of this movie somewhere that trims some of the fat that's still there, some of the Snyderisms that still exist in the film. But as far as Snyder is concerned, Justice League is probably his best film. And that is it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will hopefully see you next week. I'm actually trying to buckle down and actually watch some stuff this week. Thanks for watching.